And now it's a great pleasure to introduce for the final presentation before our coffee break, our dear colleague, Oleksander Myronenko, to give his presentation to us. He is a greatly respected figure of authority within the Ukrainian Umbrella Association, and he's one of the founder members of UUP. He has great diplomatic skills, often resolving situations of conflict. He's a very important member of the group meeting between EAP and UUP for all sorts of reasons, including that he translates for us, which is a really important connecting thing. For more than 30 years, Oleksander has worked as Associate Professor in the Department of Psychiatry at Lviv National Medical University, and he also lectures at the Ukrainian Catholic University. Welcome this morning, Oleksander, as our presenter. We look forward to what you have to say to us.
Thank you, Patricia, for such an introduction. And at the beginning, I would like to share my first experience, actually, when shocked, overwhelmed from stress, people were helping others even more. People lots of years ago, when in my city in Lviv was avia catastrophe, and it was the aerial show, and the plane fell on the viewers, and at that time we had thousands of traumatized, shocked, wounded people, lots of killed people. It was many years ago, and there was this need to organize very fast. It was summer, it was lots of people were on vacation, and I'm very grateful to Oleksander Field for this organization, because at that time he managed to get us all together, and this help was on many levels. Thank you to Professor Papadopoulos. It was actually this experience, and today I wanted to share this experience, how one wounded person can help other wounded person. I will share my screen. At the beginning, I would like to share two quotes that I think are extremely important for challenges. One quotations is Goethe quotation, who said that it is impossible to be a hero all the time, but you always can be a human. And we as therapists do not always have to be heroes. We do not, but we always can remain humans when we are helping other people. And the other quotation is Ernest Hemingway, who took part in two wars, and who knew really well, and he described really well all those the terrible things about war, and he told that we are all broken, but very often in those places where we are broken, we are the strongest. And these are those two illustrations of how people can be wounded but still have huge strength. And it is impossible to give something to other person without giving yourself, without risking yourself. And this risk, when we are risking ourselves, when we are risking our personality, it is integral part of working with wounded people, traumatized people. And then not only skills, experience of psychotherapists, but also his or her personality, their capability to give themselves is integrally connected with this possibility to create therapeutic alliance and be effective. I am not going to stay here because Professor Papadopoulos already mentioned about war, why war is terrible. I just want to say once again that war is destroying this feeling of normality. Those people who are in the war, it doesn't matter whether they are fighting with arms in their hands or they are peaceful citizens, but everything that is normal is destroyed. And that's why for us, as for psychotherapists, it's extremely important to maintain everything about normality. And I am grateful to Professor Papadopoulos. He gave the definition of what is distress, what is disorder, and what is just a normal reaction to terrible events. And in Ukraine, war led, on the one hand, to losses of thousands of lives, but currently we cannot mourn them because it is not the time for that. The war is still going on. And starting from 24th of February last year, we have this constant feeling of anxiety, hatred, anger, rage. They are present in every day of our life, especially right now when I'm giving this presentation. Kyiv is being shelled from ballistic missiles, and it's very intensive explosions going on in Kyiv right now. And I would like to say that today it's not just trauma of war, it's different aspects of trauma. It's existential trauma, it's physical trauma, it's psychological trauma, moral trauma, spiritual trauma. And this is a trauma from which we cannot actually can be healed from. And this is a trauma that we cannot even sometimes survive till the end. And the most important thing is that trauma is destruction of capability of the person to be of people to be themselves. It's destruction of this capability to be and become. And it is something that leads to the most subjective suffering, not this disorder, but actually constant suffering. And then the very important thing is how to accept unacceptable. On the one hand, we all have this need in self-preservation, but on the other hand, we have this need of self-actualization, and those needs are sometimes contradicting each other. But we as psychotherapists need shelter, we need this, but when we actualize ourselves, this is the need to help other people. And then it's already another contradictory when our functioning is limited due to possibility to function in the best possible way. That's why two such contradictions which our people are suffering right now. On the one hand, it's courage and this desire to win, to victory, and on the other side, it's fear, because people are afraid of war. They are afraid of their own death, of death of their near and dear. And even more, it's this specific fear, not so much as to die, but to get into captivity, to be on the occupied territory and to undergo torture and all those atrocity that are absolutely unacceptable, especially to peaceful people. And here again, we have two paradoxes. Every war creates new ways of killing. And this war is not something new. It also has created new, absolutely unheard before ways of killing. But fortunately, every war also creates new ways of healing. And actually, the characterization for this war is this unprecedented in its scale provision of therapeutic and psychotherapeutic help to anybody who is in need. And this war has led to a transformation of identity of Ukrainians. We are not victims anymore, we are authors. And if before the main trait of identity of Ukrainians that we were proud of was this ability to withhold, to survive, and Ukrainians were joined by some common sufferings. Some heroes, main heroes for Ukraine were those people who were ready to sacrifice. The selflessness was one of the traits. But now Ukrainians are not no victims anymore. They're authors of their life, of their future. And what unites us right now is freedom. And this existential threat of war showed the world Ukraine as something that is fulfilled of presence and existence. And this initiative that we have such meetings, it is the best example of this. What makes us strong? Strong that we are fighting for our own vision for the future. Our enemies are fighting for their own version of past, and this is the war during which Ukrainians are trying to overcome totalitarian trauma. We are trying to fight for our existence, for our identity as independent country state. And that's why here we can mention that Ukraine already has won, even despite the fact that war is still going on, because this desire for freedom has turned out to be stronger than feeling of fear, and it is very great pillar on our fight, in our therapeutic fight. And now I would like to move to the next part of my presentation. It's actually this notion of wounded healer that at one time was introduced by Carl Gustav Jung. He introduced this notion of wounded healer to describe a phenomenon that has a place between relations between therapist and the patient, and he focused that every therapist has their own wounds, their own traumas, but they do not limit his therapeutic capabilities, but still he can or she they can use them for service to other people and for better understanding of other people. And then Jung mentioned that our own pain is a source how we can heal others. And he mentioned that paradox and mystery of healing is that one who is healing is wounded himself. And that's why this ability to healing and this woundness are integrally related. And this recognition that inside healers there is a hidden internal patient, and every patient has hidden inside healer in them, and that is this ability to use this woundness for healing of other people, because due to our own wounds, our own um, pain can help us to feel empathy towards others, and this possibility to overcome this pain gave the strength to heal others. And then those wounds or traumas of the healer can resonate with the wounds of other person who is no less wounded, and it can strengthen the ability to heal. It is extremely important that even if we are not wounded, we would never, if we were not wounded, we would never be able to find the strength. And that's why, in a based to the opinion of different authors, the aim of our wounds is to understand this healing power that is inside us. And it is very important to recognize our own wounds. Then it is the way of connection of woundness and healing. It is extremely important that understanding of our own history, awareness of our own history, and acceptance of our limits. Once again, thank you to Professor Papadopoulos who has mentioned about that. That are also traits of wounded healer during meetings with those who have such needs. And we need to remember about that, and we need to maintain constant connection with our wounded part. This is something that helps our ability to feel bigger empathy, that decreases the effect of post-traumatic stress and deepens our post-therapeutic context. And then this is transformation from the one who managed to survive trauma to the wounded healer. Due to this possibility to overcome sufferings and resilience, our clients are healed themselves, but they also heal us. They heal those who are next to them. And the history of our own trauma my history also, those the 20 years ago when we had this avia catastrophe in Lviv, it gives possibility to understand experience of loss and isolation of our clients. And then contact of wounded healer with wounded client is this proposition of mutual empathy and support. And here on this scheme, we see this transformation from healing to resilience, from wounded healer to change agent. And this relation, this is our common humanity. According to Carl Rogers, the main predisposition of therapeutic changes is contact, psychological contact and atmosphere of this relation client therapist. And this relation, it is the way of being together with others. This is our common humanity. Rogers mentioned, I am a person and I remind myself about my humanity. I'm also vulnerable, and due to that, I am quite kind. Whatever deep are other wounds of others, this person should not be ashamed of myself, because I'm also a person, I'm also human. Whatever is his story, he will not be feeling alone with that anymore. It is something that helped healing begin. And this joint humanity, this ability to have this connection, relation, it is this basic of humanity. And here I would like to also mention Martin Buber, another great thinker, who mentioned that to exist is it means to be in relations. He was talking about those aspects that characterize real meetings, real encounter between two people. This encounter, I and thou, or you. And he also has mentioned that all real life is an encounter, especially when two people are actively cooperating with each other and they are really open towards one another. And Buber has called this encounter relation, and this relation that is being characterized by this mutual recognition. Buber also have mentioned that the biggest thing that one person can do for the other is to justify their deepest internal experiences. And very often those deepest internal experiences of healers, these are their wounds. And those people who are ready to have open relations between such encounters, this is this encounter of two wounded people. And then every moment of this encounter is the real chance for healing. And it is of the utmost importance that those two wounded people are equal during this encounter, if to talk about experiencing of the same trauma, experiencing common threats, pain and suffering. When we have air alarm going on, we are equal with our clients. We are equal and we can share how we deal with the threat, with this alarm and this anxiety. What does it mean for us? And then we can say that there are no significant differences between two people who are involved in this healing relations. Both are wounded, and at the same time, both are healers. And once again, coming back to Rogers, who was talking about mutuality, Rogers has mentioned that a therapist is open to experiences, and a real encounter of two open people during which each of them changes and is being changed. And this is actually, this mutuality is this an encounter when empathy, respect is felt by both, by client and by therapist. So due to this focus on experiences of the client, the treatment of therapist and client actually equals this position of Martin Buber, I and thou. And this healing, because of the therapeutic mutuality of therapeutic encounter, and this experience is the moment of attachment. My English colleague Mick Cooper calls relational depths. And this meeting, this encounter of psychotherapy happens right now, here and now. This is a mutual involvement of those experiences into relations, which is characterized by two more aspects. Apart from mutuality, it's also trust, but trust, which is an integral part of such relations, when both are ready to trust each other and be themselves. And humanity, the humanity is actually the main element of this process. Humanity of psychotherapy and not model of therapy has huge influence on effectiveness of healing and help. And approach of this humanity shows the essence of real encounter with others, this interpersonal relation. And therapists, those therapists who choose this generally human position in their professional practice, can be more effective in helping other people who are also wounded from trauma. And here it is extremely important to say that it is mutual experience and mutual understanding of our trauma it is very important that both therapist and client were aware of their wounds and were not trying to contradict their trauma. Once again, Professor Papadopoulos mentioned this survey, yes, of people who feel extremely cheerful, extremely optimistic. And then to contradict this, the contradiction of this atmosphere of demoralization, here therapists as wounded healers can take this positive energy from relations with their clients, and then it's actually these are those relations which gives mutual sense and support. And then when according to our experience and our experience that has been taking place for more than 15 months, this burning out very often happens when it's when they, or I eat, and not when we have mutual mutual support of two wounded people in sense of relations I, thou, or I, you. And it is extremely important. Also, I'm coming already to the end of my presentation. It is a really great personal trait, this resilience of Ukrainians, and Ukraine in this war is a unique one. And one of the reasons of Ukrainian resilience, it's once again the solidarity, the strength of relations. Ukraine was splitted country, splitted for south and west, east and west, south and north. Everybody was trying to protect their own right for dominance and who's going to be the president of Ukraine. And once, suddenly, when the war happened, everybody united. And solidarity, this strength, which is even now gives us the possibility to be strong, to be resilient in this war. We have each other, and that's why we together can survive much more than we can imagine. We can calm each other down. We can support each other. Uh, Despite our own wounds and our own pain, and that's why we need relations with each other for survival, for healing, for growth. And here we have this integration of wounded and healer in both partners. And this is the strength of real encounter of I and you. And this is the place for tears, for feeling pain, for the reflection of what has been happening with us. And this is this creation of renewing trust and safety. And extremely important that healing from wounds of war and this cruelty that goes here. It's not an individual, but also collective experience. That's why collective experience, including collective experience of pain, always take place in the context of group. It can be bigger group, can be smaller groups, can be huge communities. But in situations of war and genocide and ecocide that we have just recently witnessed, people survive trauma as group, and for their healing they might need some groups that will be protection for them and that they will lead to this strength and resilience. And here I would like to mention how important it is to have a song and singing as an authentic, deep Ukrainian transgenerational tradition. We very often see that when people cooking or they are knitting socks or they are preparing clothes, they are all singing together. And this is this singing that is a mutual ritual, mutual action for those people. And that's it is also part of spirituality, uh, which is important for depth, for surviving of this depth and grief, but also it can strengthen our identity. And I'm coming to the end, summing up. So every person can find their own way for healing from this miserableness, from this sadness and pain, but this person needs another person to share it with her or with him. And that's why this relation with others, this mutual empathy and support, these are aspects of therapeutic relations which are key to healing. And this mutuality helps growth, and this recognition of differentiations helps us to connect it with our common humanity. And those moments of um, deep connection and mutuality happen when we are open to positive and negative experiences we can live through together. And to finish, the war hasn't broken Ukrainians, but still gave them the strength to move to victory despite losses and pain. That's why Ukrainian victory will not only be a military one, it's also moral, intellectual, political victory on all Ukrainian, on all European continent. As our politologists and authors mentioned, we do not have division on East and West Europe. It all Ukraine connected everybody, and it's just now integral. Everything is integral, and this is freedom. This integrity is what is the most important for all the people. It somewhat unites us all, and we will continue healing other traumatized people for victory and for our freedom. And to finalize, healing from trauma give us the possibility, give us to make a choice, not only to say no to suffering and to death, but also to say yes to life. So thank you for your attention. Thank you for this possibility that was given to me by our colleagues. Thank you for this trust that I was able to have my presentation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Oleksander. I'm deeply moved by your presentation, and you can see the flow of messages in the chat that so many people who are part of this symposium today are also deeply moved and deeply thankful to you for your words to us. Beginning with Hemingway, where we are broken, we are often the strongest, which I think is also the spirit of Kintsugi, and also some of the wonderful things you said, that each war creates ways of healing, and that you in Ukraine are not victims anymore. You're authors of your lives and you're authors of your country, and you are now already a people of freedom. And it was your president who said, that freedom is not about unshackled bodies, it is about unshackled minds. And you, our Ukrainian colleagues, your minds are already unshackled, your minds are already free. And this is the hope for now and for the future. So thank you indeed from my heart for your words to us this morning.